Enfin, le Pays de Galles contre l'Argentine. Argentina v Wales. The final quarter-final. In the previews that I've been doing, it's actually the first quarter-final, and I accidentally did it like this. I could have blagged it and said I planned it, but I've actually done it in reverse order. The last game first, and the first game last. And here we are with the final, the first game, of the weekend, but my final preview before all the teams are announced, when there'll be more to chat about. But this is just gut feelings ahead of Wales versus Argentina. I will be there at the Marseille Stadium. Marseille is where I am right now. And as I mentioned previously, in the England-Fiji preview video, I explain how it is and why it is I am by the ocean in Marseille currently. Gorgeous as it is, bringing you this little preview. But let's get straight on with it. All I'll say is, please, if you haven't already, I would love it if you would hit subscribe. Give the video a thumbs up, that really helps. This matchup has got everything. It's so hard to call, like all of them. And yeah, the criticism of the wonky World Cup draw is justified. And I'd be fuming if I was Scottish or South African, French, Irish or Kiwi. But the matchups are fantastic. And when you look at this, Gatland versus Cheika just feels right. That's just got something about it, hasn't it? You've got the consistent, predictable Welsh team. Certainly in recent weeks and months, you kind of know exactly what you're going to get. There are limitations to what Wales can do, but they have kind of a base level that they always get above. They always hit, 6.5, 7 out of 10. Versus the unpredictable, hot and cold Argentina, where who knows which version of them is going to turn up. You've got amazing matchups across the park. Mateo Carreras for Argentina up against Luis Rees-Zammit is worth the entrance money alone. Those two guys are so exciting. You've also got, when you look at the negatives, Taulupe Faletau out with a broken arm. Devastating news for Wales. He's one of their truly world-class players. But on the flip side, Argentina are without Pablo Matera, who is equally a world-class back row player. So they seem to be just going toe-to-toe and matching everything. Oh, you're without a world-class back row player, fine. We'll ditch a world-class back row player as well. But I think the key could be in the players that are potentially out for Wales, but may not be out, and hopefully for them, not out, in Dan Biggar, Gareth Anscombe and Liam Williams. Because amongst them, Dan Biggar and Liam Williams particularly, you have got more world-class rugby players. And if they lose Faletau, Biggar and Williams, that's seismic for Wales. The news is looking positive, and for that reason I'm feeling quite optimistic for Wales. I've seen both play out this World Cup. I watched Wales against Portugal and I watched Wales against Australia, and I saw two Argentina games. Their dreadful performance against England, and they're not much better performance against Samoa as well. In fact, Samoa versus Argentina was the worst game of the Rugby World Cup, and I went all the way to St Etienne to see it, and I felt massively let down. So Argentina owe me an entertaining match, if nothing else. The Warren Gatland mantra, I don't actually think it was Warren Gatland that came up with it. I think he might have got it from someone else, but it's one that I always associate with Warren Gatland. He says, and the one thing he always gets from his rugby team, he says, be the best at the things that require no skill. So he always turns up with a really, really fit rugby team. They're always incredibly well organised. They do all the basic functional things that don't require any skill whatsoever. And that instantly elevates Wales above many other teams. It makes them really, really hard to beat, really, really hard to play against. Well organised, really fit. You can go a long way with that. Obviously, there are limits to the ceiling when that's your kind of approach, but that gets you past a lot, particularly when you have rugby players that are as talented as many of the Welsh guys. And again, when you flip that over to Argentina, Argentina's preparations for the World Cup, well, I did comment on this before the World Cup, that it's strange. Their last proper match was a month before that opening game against England. It was in the Rugby Championship, and then all they had was one game, World Cup warm-up game against Spain, which isn't a top-level opposition. And then they were straight into it with England. Now, who knows? Maybe Michael Cheika, because he is a very smart cookie. He's been around the block. I mean, 2015, Wales fans will remember, Wales topped the pool and England went out in that particular World Cup, and Michael Cheika masterminded that. Now, maybe Michael Cheika looked at the pool and thought, even a substandard Argentina at the start of the World Cup, even if we end up losing to England, I back us to get out of the pool. And maybe he's thinking about peaking for this game. And that's why he chose the World Cup warm-up preparation that he did. And I'd be surprised if that was the case, but if that is the case, then it would tally with what we've seen from Argentina, because all of a sudden, against Japan, boom, the attacking game that they have the potential to bring started to show. Mateo Carreras suddenly flicked into form. And one of his tries was just pure individual inspirational brilliance. And that's an ominous sign for Wales, because there are some people in World Rugby who can do things that you cannot prepare for. And I guess Louis Rees-Zammit is one of those characters with just that absolute sheer elite pace. And Mateo Carreras is one of those with just box office moments, bumping off two defenders and gassing it himself. What a player. However, I think that knockout rugby, if it's taught us one thing through all of the years of the Rugby World Cup, it's that knockout rugby is rarely loose, expansive. It's always tight, controlled. Penalty kicks become important, mistakes are magnified, and little things in knockout games become very, very important things. And for that reason, the matchup at fly half is going to be fascinating. Now, I've got a lot of time for Santi Carreras. He is an outstanding rugby player. And when Argentina click, he is the fulcrum. He is the centrepiece of it, because he can do things that few other fly halves, maybe no other fly half in world rugby, can do. And when he's on, all bets are off. But he has to be operating at like 9 or 10 out of 10 for that to happen. Whereas I think in a guy like Dan Biggar, Wales have got an elite 10 who is always on his game. Very, very rarely does Dan Biggar waver from doing the basics very, very well. And in knockout rugby, I just think that's too important. I think when I look at other areas where these teams match up really well, probably scrummaging a little bit. Like they've been better in the past. They're not amazing at it now. They're okay, but it'll be very interesting to see where that matches up. Argentina have not quite been so good there. So that'll be interesting. Also, centres. It's been a team where, for the last year or so, you're not totally sure who the best centre pairing is. And there's been a lot of chopping and changing around. However, in the last few weeks, there seems to have been a clear identification. These are our guys for both teams. And I have to mention, I think Nick Tompkins, this World Cup, has been brilliant. I would just like to say, for the record, I was desperate for him to be involved in the England setup long before he chose Wales, because he'd been overlooked by England. I think we really missed a gem there. He gets some stick from time to time, but I think he's a really good all-round player, and I haven't understood some of the stick that he's been getting. There's the odd mistake in games, but people always talk about the centres being the most difficult position to defend in, and I think it's one of those, when there's any issues within a team, they probably get magnified in that midfield area. I think he's been fantastic this World Cup. And it feels very settled for Wales. Will Argentina be allowed to show the things that they can do? Michael Cheika has been cultivating this real attacking style of rugby, and they have got some absolute ballers in their backline, no question. Will they be allowed to do it? Or is this going to come down to Emiliano Boffelli versus Dan Biggar kicking sticks? My guess is that is most likely. And if that is the case, then I think Wales edge it. Although I could see Argentina being inspired and turning up and rolling Wales over, because they've done it before to New Zealand. They did it recently to Australia. They did it to, well, I mean, perfect example about Argentina. Really good win against England at Twickenham, and then they lost to Wales in Cardiff. It sounds like a boring cliche, but it's so true with Argentina. Are they going to be on or are they going to be off? Are they going to run hot or are they going to run cold? Wales, I know exactly what Warren Gatland's team are going to do. And I think what they're going to do will be just enough. So that's my prediction. I'd love to know what you think. Leave your comments down below. Give the video a thumbs up. That really helps. And if you haven't already, would love it if you'd hit subscribe. Right, I'll see you on the next one.